So we're going to get into graphing exponential functions a bit more now. And on the first day, we graphed y equals 2 to the x, or f of x equals 2 to the x. Remember, y and f of x, same thing, different notation. So what was our y-intercept? Well, our y-intercept was 0, 1. That's where it's crossing the y-axis. And what's our asymptote? We have a horizontal asymptote. That's the only kind we have. And it's y equals 0, which is right there. We don't have a vertical asymptote. It actually continues to go off and to the right. Even though it continues to get a little more vertical, it still continues to move to the right. So it's always going positive. So it's, our range, we don't have a stopping point over here. So it was all real numbers for our x values, which is why our domain is all real numbers. Okay. So we got 4 different graphs going on here. Now, let's try to make sense of all this, because I know it is a little overwhelming, but it is color-coded. Okay. So here's our starting one. This is like we call it our parent function, okay? So y equals 2 to the x. And that one's growth. And then you can see y equals 7 to the x is also growth, but it's growing faster. It's growing at a faster rate. That's because the part that's being raised to the x, that b, is bigger, so it's growing faster. If you raise 7 to an exponent, and you raise 2 to that same exponent, the 7 to that exponent is going to be a bigger number as you increase x. So that's why it's growing faster. So remember, if the b is more than 1, it is exponential growth. This is a little review. And then if you look at our green ones, the different shades of green, we have 1/7 to the x. It's decaying at a faster rate than 1/2 to the x. Okay? So it's much more steep over here, and it's decaying much faster. So if it's less than 1, greater than 0, but between 0 and 1, it's going to be, decay. Almost wrote growth. Crazy, man. Decay. Awesome. So basic summary of that, a little more clean. If b is greater than 1, we've got growth. If b is between 0 and 1, so we don't really we're going to deal with like negatives for b. If it's between 0 and 1, then it's decaying. And don't just think of that as like if b is like a fraction or a decimal, because that's not the case. I mean, it could be 1.37. That's still growth, even though there's a decimal going on. Okay, so make sure between 0 and 1 is decay. Greater than 1 is growth. And look at the direction of the graph. It's going up and to the right for growth, down and to the right for decay.